Belly fat is sneaky. It does not always show up the way people think it will. Sometimes it looks obvious from the outside. Sometimes it does not. Sometimes your clothes still fit. The number on the scale does not seem shocking, and yet your body is quietly storing the exact kind of fat that causes the most trouble. That is the kind of fat I want to talk about today. Because when people say, "I just want to lose my belly," what they are really talking about is not only looks, they are talking about energy, they are talking about inflammation, they are talking about metabolic health. They are talking about the kind of fat that sits deeper in the abdomen, crowds the organs, disrupts hormones, stirs up inflammation, and makes it harder for the body to do what it is supposed to do. And here is the good news. Your body is not helpless. Your metabolism is not broken forever. And no, you do not need to starve yourself, punish yourself, or live on bland food to begin changing it. In fact, one of the smartest things you can do is much simpler than most people realize. Eat the right foods consistently, not perfectly, consistently. And today I want to focus on one very specific strategy. Eat this 3 times a week and watch your belly fat start to disappear. Now, before you think I am about to give you a magic food, let me be clear. There is no single food that does all the work. But there are foods that make the work easier for your body. There are foods that improve the terrain, foods that help turn down inflammation, foods that support insulin sensitivity, foods that improve satiety so you are not constantly hungry, foods that give your body better raw materials to burn fuel instead of store it. And one of the most powerful categories is fatty fish. Yes, fish, especially salmon, sardines, trout, mackerel, and similar omega-3 rich fish. If you eat these foods 3 times a week, you are not just checking a healthy eating box. You are sending your body a different signal. You are telling your metabolism, we are changing the environment now. That matters, because body fat, especially belly fat, is not just about calories in and calories out in the simplistic way people were taught. Your body is not a calculator. It is a chemistry lab, it is a control center, it is a thermostat, a hormone network, a fuel management system, and an immune response system, all operating at the same time. So when you choose foods, you are not just choosing how much you eat, you are choosing what message your body hears. And fatty fish sends a very useful message. One reason is protein. People underestimate protein all the time, especially after 40, especially after 50, especially when they are trying to lose weight. Because when most people go on a diet, what they really do is they just eat less of everything, less total food, less satisfaction, less protein, less muscle support, and then they wonder why they feel tired, hungry, irritable, and weak. That is not a smart fat loss strategy. That is like trying to save money by tearing wires out of your house. You may reduce the bill for a minute, but you are also damaging the system you need. Protein helps preserve lean mass, and lean mass matters because muscle is expensive tissue, it uses energy, it helps maintain function. It supports healthy aging, and in older adults, protein needs may actually be higher than many people think, with evidence suggesting around 1.0 to 1.3 grams per kilogram per day being helpful for maintaining muscle and function, especially alongside resistance exercise, PMC. So if you are cutting calories but not protecting protein, you may lose weight on paper while making your body composition worse. That is not progress. That is shrinkage without strength. Now let's go one level deeper. Why fish? Why not just any protein? Because fatty fish gives you a 1-2 punch. It gives you protein and it gives you omega-3 fatty acids. That combination is powerful. Omega-3s have been studied for years because they affect inflammation, triglycerides, and metabolic health. Now, I want to be careful here. The strongest evidence does not say omega-3s are some guaranteed miracle that will melt pounds off your body overnight. That is not what good science says. The evidence for direct major weight loss in humans is mixed. But the evidence that omega-3s improve metabolic health markers is much more solid, including lowering triglycerides, and that matters because better metabolic health creates a better fat loss environment. NIH Office of Dietary Supplements PMC. That distinction is important. A lot of people want the fantasy. What works better is understanding the mechanism. When inflammation is high, when insulin signaling is poor, when appetite is unstable, and when your body is constantly nudged towards storage instead of use, belly fat becomes much harder to change. So the question becomes, what helps your body shift in the other direction? Better protein intake helps. Omega-3 intake helps, better meal structure helps, lower inflammatory load helps, and that is why eating fatty fish 3 times a week is such a smart move. It is not because the fish is magical, it is because the fish improves several systems at once, and whenever you improve several systems at once, the body starts cooperating. That is the word people are looking for, cooperating. They say, "Doctor, Marie Clark, why does my body feel like it is fighting me?" Because sometimes it is, not because your body hates you, because your body responds to the environment you repeatedly create. If you undersleep, oversnack, undereat protein, live on ultra-processed foods, and spend all day in a stress state, your body adapts to that environment. It becomes defensive, it becomes inflamed, it becomes harder to regulate. But when you start doing the right things repeatedly, your body adapts again. Now, let me tell you something else about belly fat. It is not just passive storage. Visceral fat is biologically active. That means it is not just sitting there quietly like luggage in an attic. It behaves more like a factory, and not always a friendly one. It can pump out inflammatory signals. It is associated with metabolic dysfunction. And excessive visceral adiposity has been linked in the scientific literature to cancer risk and poor outcomes through mechanisms involving inflammation, insulin disruption, and related pathways PMC. That is why I want people to stop thinking about belly fat as just a cosmetic issue. Yes, you may want a flatter waistline, that is fine, but there is something much bigger at stake: internal health. And the exciting part is that the foods that help your waistline often help the rest of your body too. Now, I said fish 3 times a week. What does that actually look like? It looks practical. 1 salmon dinner, 1 sardine or mackerel lunch, 1 trout or tuna meal. That is it. You do not need a gourmet kitchen. You do not need a chef. You do not need a 7-step cleanse. You need repetition. That is where people get stuck. They are always looking for a dramatic reset, but the body does not care about your dramatic reset. The body cares about patterns. 3 times this week, 3 times next week, 3 times the week after that. That is how a body changes. And here is something else people miss. When you add something good in, you usually crowd something less helpful out. This is one of my favorite strategies. I call it the replacement effect. If you eat a protein-rich fish meal with healthy fat, vegetables, fiber, and real satisfaction, what are you not eating? You are probably not eating the giant takeout bowl loaded with refined starch and mystery oils. You are probably not standing in the kitchen an hour later looking for cookies. You are probably not raiding the pantry at 10:30 at night because your dinner never really landed. That is what smart nutrition does. It settles the body. It reduces chaos. Fat loss gets much easier when your body is no longer in a cycle of spikes, crashes, cravings, and compensation. And this is where fiber deserves a huge mention, because if I am building a belly fat strategy, I do not want fish alone. I want fish plus fiber. Fiber is one of the quiet heroes of metabolism. It slows digestion, it improves fullness, it supports the gut microbiome, and when your gut microbes are fed well, they can produce compounds that help regulate inflammation and metabolism. So now picture the meal. Salmon with roasted broccoli and lentils, sardines on whole grain toast with sliced tomatoes and arugula, trout with Brussels sprouts and a side of beans. That is not diet food, that is metabolic support. That is a meal that actually does something for you. And if you want to make this even stronger, use extra virgin olive oil. This is another food that punches above its weight. High-quality extra virgin olive oil contains polyphenols with anti-inflammatory properties. So now think about what you are building: protein, omega-3s, fiber, polyphenols, micronutrients, better satiety, lower inflammatory burden. This is how you start changing the engine, not with gimmicks, with leverage. Now let's talk about one thing that confuses people. They say, if fish is healthy, why am I not losing weight yet? Because healthy food still has to live inside a healthy pattern. A salmon fillet cannot outvote a lifestyle. You still need to look at what your week actually looks like. This is where honesty helps. I often tell people to do a food audit before they try to overhaul anything. Just write it down, not to judge yourself, not to shame yourself, to see yourself clearly. Because clarity is powerful. Most people are not eating as well as they think, and most people are also not eating as badly as they fear. What they are usually doing is eating inconsistently. Too little protein early, too much snacking late, a healthy intention at breakfast, a chaotic afternoon, a reward myself dinner, and then confusion about why the belly fat is staying put. Write it down for a week, longer if you can. Then look for the pressure points. Where are the liquid calories? Where are the mindless snacks? Where are the ultra-processed foods that leave you hungry again? Where are the protein gaps? Where are the meals that never fully satisfy you? That is where change begins. And when you add fish 3 times a week, you are not just adding fish. You are often upgrading the structure of the entire day. That is one of the hidden benefits. Now let me bring in something fascinating. Brown fat. A lot of people have heard the term but do not know what it means. Brown fat is metabolically active fat that burns energy to create heat. White fat stores, brown fat burns. That is a very simplified way to say it, but it gets the point across. And research in humans shows that mild cold exposure can increase brown fat volume and activity, along with changes in metabolism and insulin sensitivity (NIH). Now, does that mean you need to jump into an ice bath every morning? No, not necessarily. What it means is that your metabolism is dynamic. Your body has systems designed to use fuel, respond to the environment, and adapt. That should encourage you. Because people often act as if their metabolism is fixed. It is not. It is responsive. Food quality matters. Temperature exposure can matter. Activity matters. Sleep matters. Stress matters. And this is why I never want people to reduce belly fat to one number on a treadmill screen. Your body is listening to everything. So if you eat fish 3 times a week, strength train, walk more, sleep better, and improve food quality overall, the effect is cumulative. The body starts getting a new message from multiple directions. That is when change speeds up. Now, if you do not like salmon, fine. Do not make this harder than it needs to be. Use another fish you enjoy. Sardines are incredibly nutrient-dense. Trout is excellent. Mackerel is rich. Herring works. Even if you rotate options, the point is consistency. And if you truly do not eat fish, then you need to think carefully about where your protein and omega-3s are going to come from. Can you get protein elsewhere? Of course, eggs, Greek yogurt, poultry, legumes, tofu, cottage cheese, lean meats, tempeh, absolutely. Can you get omega-3s from plant foods? You can get ALA from foods like walnuts, chia, and flax. That is useful, but marine sources directly provide EPA and DHA, which are the omega-3s most often emphasized in research around cardiovascular and metabolic health, NIH Office of Dietary Supplements. So if fish is available to you and you enjoy it, it is one of the smartest upgrades you can make. Here is another thing I want you to remember. Belly fat reduction is not only about removing, it is also about building better meals, building better muscle, building better rhythms, building better appetite control, building better recovery. When people focus only on subtraction, they get miserable. No bread, no dessert, no carbs, no fun. That usually lasts about 6 days. Then the rebound comes. The better strategy is to build a plate that works so well that it naturally reduces the need for the junk. That is why 3 fish meals a week can be so effective. They are anchors, they create structure, and structure beats willpower every time. If you know Tuesday is salmon night, Thursday is tuna and white bean salad, and Saturday is grilled trout, you have already won half the battle. Decision fatigue drops. Impulse eating drops. Takeout temptation drops. Now let me talk to the women listening for a moment. You can be normal-sized on the outside and still carry more harmful fat internally than you realize. That is part of why body composition matters more than appearance alone. And that is why focusing only on the scale can mislead you. You do not just want to weigh less. You want to be metabolically healthier. You want a waistline that reflects better internal health. You want lower inflammation. You want stronger muscle. You want better insulin sensitivity. You want better odds over the long run. That is a bigger and better goal. And for the men listening, the same principle applies. A larger waist is not just a clothing issue, it is a health signal. Listen to it early. Do not wait until the lab work starts waving red flags. Now, I want to make this very actionable. If I were starting today, here is exactly what I would do. First, pick 3 days, not vague intentions, days. Second, pick the fish meals ahead of time. Third, pair each meal with a vegetable and a fiber source. Fourth, make sure the meal is satisfying enough that you are not hunting for snacks an hour later. Fifth, repeat next week. That is it. Simple wins are repeatable wins. And if you want to strengthen this even more, start your day with more protein overall. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see is low protein mornings, followed by uncontrolled evenings. If breakfast is coffee and a pastry, your afternoon is already in trouble. If breakfast has real protein, your whole day usually improves. Again, we are not chasing perfection, we are building stability. So now, imagine this. You start eating fatty fish 3 times a week. You increase protein. You improve fiber. You use olive oil instead of lower quality fats. You eat more berries, greens, cruciferous vegetables, beans and whole foods. You walk after meals. You lift weights a few times a week. You sleep a little better. What happens? For many people, the belly begins to soften. The bloating goes down. The cravings calm down. The afternoon crash gets better. The waistline starts shifting. And the biggest thing of all? You begin trusting your body again. That matters, because when people do not trust their body, they panic. They bounce from plan to plan. They chase extremes. But when they start seeing their body respond, even gradually, they settle in. And settled consistency is where real transformation happens. So yes, eat this 3 times a week and watch your belly fat start to disappear. Not because one food is magical, but because this one habit can start a chain reaction. Better protein, better fats, better fullness, better food choices, better metabolic support, less chaos, less inflammation, more cooperation from the body you live in every day. That is how change happens. And if you are waiting for a sign to begin, this is it. Do not wait for Monday. Do not wait for the next month. Do not wait until you feel motivated. Motivation is unreliable. A grocery list is better. A plan is better. A repeatable meal is better. Pick your 3 meals, buy the food, cook the food, eat the food, repeat, and let time do its job. Because belly fat usually does not appear in 1 week, and it does not disappear in 1 week either. But the body notices what you repeat. It always does. So give it something worth noticing. Give it protein. Give it omega-3s. Give it fiber. Give it anti-inflammatory foods. Give it movement. Give it consistency. And let your metabolism finally work with you instead of against you. I'm Dr. Marie Clark. And if you want a simple place to start with 3 fish meals this week. Not someday, this week. Your waistline may be the first thing that changes, but it will not be the only thing. Research notes used for accuracy. Protein needs in older adults were drawn from evidence suggesting roughly 1.0 to 1.3 g/kg/day may better support muscle and function than the standard minimum intake, particularly with resistance exercise (PMC). Omega-3s from seafood are well supported for triglyceride lowering and metabolic health, while evidence for large direct weight loss effects in humans is mixed rather than definitive. NIH Office of Dietary Supplements (PMC). Visceral fat is strongly tied to chronic low-grade inflammation and disease risk, including links to cancer-related pathways (PMC). Mild cold exposure has been shown in humans to increase brown fat activity and affect metabolism, which supports the broader discussion of metabolic flexibility (NIH).